Washington was a map guy. Absolutely, Washington was a map guy. So as you mentioned, he was a surveyor in his youth. It was his first sort of job. You know, I worked at a movie theater. George Washington surveyed Virginia. So he had the skills needed to create maps, but he also got other people's maps.
Welcome to The Secrets of Washington's Archives, a video series celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Washington Presidential Library at Mount Vernon. I'm Dr. Ann Ferdig, and we're taking you today inside the Mars Rare Book and Manuscripts room at the Washington Presidential Library to show you one of my favorite books in the collection. We're going to be looking at Washington's copy of William Guthrie's A New System of Modern Geography. But what's really cool about this particular book is that it comes with an atlas of maps that George Washington himself helped contribute to. Here today to talk about all things maps with us is Dr. Alexandra Montgomery, my lovely colleague and manager of the Center for Digital History here at the Washington Presidential Library. Welcome so much, Alexandra.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for having me, Anne. This is a lot of fun.
And this is a really cool book because we have at once a geography, right? Which is a book that contains descriptions of the world as they are known. But it also comes with this very unique atlas.
Maps were objects that had many different meanings, were used in many different ways. But they were also objects that were becoming more and more available to people during the course of the 18th century. So during that century, you started to see maps being available to, not just the top echelons of society, but middling types of people, even poorer types of people. It was not uncommon for those folks to have a map, a couple of maps. They could be acquired fairly cheaply. And they're used for all kinds of things. So they're used for the things that you might imagine a map being used for example, getting from point A to point B. But they're also used as just visual material. They're used for decorating homes. They go on walls, much in the same way you or I might use a nice map today.
So what about Washington? How did he use his maps?
In his probate inventory when he died, there are around 57 loose maps, charts, and views, which is maps were becoming more accessible, but that's still a lot of maps. That is a significant map collection.
One of the great things about this particular book is this is just another example of how his passion for maps comes through, because he first acquires the third edition of Guthrie's Geography in 1787, and a year later he writes a letter complaining that, it's all right, but it's not very accurate. And he actually says in that letter, none of the European geographies are.
So this edition that we have, this is the atlas portion of it, it is titled Guthrie's Geography, but it's actually a very different beast than the original Guthrie's Geography, right? So it's a different kind of creature than that 1787 one that Washington got. So this Guthrie's was one, it was improved, it was remade by a gentleman named Matthew Carey, who was an Irish-born Philadelphia publisher, and he did so with input from Washington himself.
Yeah, I believe that he wrote to Washington while Washington was still president, asking if he could borrow his maps in order to create new maps of North America to put into the American edition.
So in the Carey edition, you see 21 new maps of North America that were created with help from these maps that were borrowed from Washington. You also see significant changes and improvements to how it talks about in the text, how it talks about the Americas, how it talks about Ireland, how it talks about other places.
And considering the fact that Washington agreed to let Carey borrow his maps, it seems like he was an enthusiastic supporter. In fact, the Washington family had 3 subscriptions to this particular map collection. George himself, of course, had one, his nephew Lawrence, but also Martha Washington.
Yes, and you told me this, and I absolutely love that, the idea of one is not enough, right? You need his, you need hers, and then you also need Lawrence.
If I'm interested in learning more about maps of early America, where should I go?
You should go to argomaps.org. So argomaps.org is American Revolutionary Geographies Online. This is a map portal. It is kind of a one-stop shopping situation for 18th century maps. It highlights maps from a number of collections. So maps from the collection here at the library, as well as maps from many other different collecting institutions are all within Argo. You can search for maps by event, you can search for maps by subject, by facet, by if there is an animal in it or not. So it is a great tool to delve more into this world of 18th century maps.
Well, it certainly seems like one of the really exciting projects that we're working on here at the library. If you're interested in learning more about how George Washington contributed to the first American Atlas, be sure to check out our podcast companion, Secrets of Washington's Archives, available wherever you download your favorite podcasts.